Good morning, everyone. It's 8 a.m., and we're at the intersection of faith, community, and civic engagement here in San Antonio. We've been meeting at this intersection since shortly after COVID began, every Thursday except on Thanksgiving. And so we've come a long way, I think, in terms of community and being aware and knowledgeable together. And along with being aware then and knowledgeable is then being able to take action collectively and form collaborations and partnerships um, on, we think, a very efficient and effective scale. So we continue, especially with our current effort on mental health, working all of our partnerships together into one ongoing movement. We often hear that we work in silos. That's a quote. I don't see that anymore. I think we all do that, where we kind of go off and do things on our own, but we're working more and more and more together in all the different concerns we have in our community, but especially right now in terms of mental health. And there's a lot of intentionality to make those connections in the mental health arena, and that we do this work together precisely because of the need. But we also are sitting in a current context that kind of throws us into a different space. So it's even more important that we continue to build our relationships and network together, get over ourselves, right? And remind ourselves that it's not about us. It is about us doing our work and partnering together, but it is about meeting the needs of the community and those that we serve and who are in need. Also realizing our own mental health and wellness in the process, and we've been focusing in on that as well. But what it really reminds all of us is that we're, on this boat together. This is not a solo sail by any means. I remember when we started Sacred, it was Billy Cox who said, "Sacred will raise all the boats," and that's what we're trying to do. Um, Sail together. So we're going to take just, I don't know, about 3 minutes for announcements, so that'll get more people into the room. I want to remind everybody that tomorrow is the annual Behavioral Health Conference, Bear County, 8 to 5. And we'll put that link into the chat, but I think there's probably still time to go, even tomorrow. I think if I remember reading correctly, it's like the 60th year. So, I mean, that's amazing in itself, right? 6 decades of working towards this, and that we're alive to see the collaboration that's come out of that. The next gathering, off at the top of my head, so I'm hoping maybe Antonio will be here, but I'll get the link and put that in chat as well. But is at Oblate School of Theology, June 15th through 17th. Their Summer Institute is also on mental health, but it's taking a deep dive, right, into the faith and spiritual components of that. And our own Doug Beach is giving one of the keynotes on that. So I'll get the link on that, June 15th through 17th, Oblate School of Theology's Summer Institute. There's probably some things that I'll be missing in this lineup, but in Sacred ourselves, we're doing monthly gatherings that are in person, along with at the intersection, which is every Thursday virtually. But we just had a great action lab last Thursday on mental health as a community effort and what that means, building all of our own action plans into those directions. Our next roundtable is June 11th. Oh, I hope that's correct, but it's June 11th. And it's going to continue on mental health. So it'll be kind of a follow up to our action lab. and how that's going with everyone. These are great opportunities to come with your team, whatever that might mean. I'm getting an echo, and I'm sorry about that, but it's a great opportunity to bring your team and keep doing some work. One skill we're going to look at the roundtable on June 11th is how to tell your story for traction. So whatever action plan you're working on, how can you tell that story? And the example story that we hope to have is by a young person, high school, um, who did a project this year on mental health, young people, and the importance of the environment in terms of that healing process. So that's going to be pretty exciting. And then in July, we're going to have an action lab on older adults and the older adult portal that's opening in Sacred, and then the work of community. So I can go on, but the one I want to point to last is Pathways to Hope, which is August 28th and 29th at Tobin. So we're staying on the path. We're staying connected and building the movement. I'm going to cut down this echoing by introducing Fred, who's with us today and is going to be telling us a little bit about his work, but he's going to be focusing on youth and families and mental health. And that's his specialty. So thank you, Fred, for being with us and teaching us and informing us what's going on and the needs out there. So thank you all for being here.
Well, thank you, Anne, and appreciate the invitation and very fortunate to be sharing our information. So yes, the focus is going to be children and youth. And I've prepared a discussion and we'll have an opportunity at the end for questions, answers, and reflection. But I'm going to stick to my notes because I've been doing this for a long time and I get really excited about sharing um, information on children and mental health and the work that we're doing. So again, Fred Cardenas, I'm a social worker, I'm an educator, and a proud grandpa of a 2-year-old, Asul, who and I've been in the field of child and family mental health and education for over 40 years. I've been doing it for quite a while, and I also teach graduate classes at UTSA in social work primarily. Most of you probably already know that Family Service is a multi-service nonprofit agency. It's been around for quite a long time, over 120 years. And we work within a framework of the social determinants of health with a trauma-informed and resilience-focused lens, offering just a variety of services throughout the community and support for surrounding communities as well. So I am the director of the Early Childhood Wellbeing Program that serves children and youth and their families. And we also work with teachers and the children's adults. We've been doing this program for about 15 years, and I oversee a team of 20 counselors, social workers, managers, case managers, and interns. And we serve children 0 through age 12, but we also work with teachers and other service providers with lots of community collaborations. Our focus is child and family mental health and well-being, and we provide traditional counseling and other counseling, home visits, case management, training for parents, teachers, and other service providers. We work with CPS referrals from pediatricians, schools, childcare centers. And from this experience, as well as doing work primarily in child and family services and education, we were asked to provide this presentation on children, focused on children and how to support children building resilience and providing positive and hopeful experiences for families so that they can then share those with their children, despite some of the current social challenges that we are all dealing with, and exacerbated by our social political climate, of course. So this presentation is to offer a glimmer of hope so that we can promote that with our families so that they can then share that with their children as well. So again, I'm sticking to my notes. So these are the things that we're seeing. So our counselors, social workers are out in the field, at schools, home visits, etc. And these are some examples of things that we're seeing. Some of the kids that we're working with were born around the time of COVID and or experienced all the disruption that COVID contributed to, sometimes still having lingering effects of social isolation or separation and related anxiety, as well as developmental or learning delays. Children that are using more technology and screen time than ever before, often integrated into learning activities at school, resulting and some contribution to difficulties with self-regulation, social skills, attention span, and delayed gratification. Families stressed by continuous exposure to societal challenges, political divisiveness, economic difficulties, inflation, fears with potential workforce changes stirred up by increasing use of AI, right? All of us being aware of our migrant, immigrant, visiting, refugee, and/or undocumented brothers and sisters who are fearful and nervous of potential deportation, even when in this country legally, due in large part to the dissemination of ICE. And the children are especially vulnerable considering the terrible impact of family separation or fear of potential separation. We have schools that are stressed by the ripple effects of attacks on DI, loss of school funding, more teachers leaving education, changes in school policies, and disempowering of teachers. All of us exposed sometimes minute by minute to so much of this societal strife and stress via social media and the dominance of cell phones and social media in our lives. As adults, we feel the stress of, and many of us stay involved and hopeful as we do the work or mission that we do to support people's spirits, souls, minds, hearts, livelihood, and resilience. And some of us may be very fortunate to even be a bit more insulated or protected or in a privileged position of helping others, although we're all affected to some extent by all of this. So, how do we try to ensure that our children still develop a sense of hope, often have an immunization effects to serious mental health concerns, and a sense of future despite all these stressors? What helps to build and sustain the glimmer of hope of children and families? And that's something that we'll discuss here at the end. Our children's emotional state is so tied and integrated with the emotional state of their adults. And I'm going to share this little poster for you to just look at and consider and reflect on for just a minute. Just want you to read that. Think about that for a minute. And so children's mental health is so tied to the mental health and the healing and the well-being of adults. And sometimes we forget that. A lot of our counseling and services that we provide are tied to the family, and we try to avoid doing mental health services in isolation or in silos, and also work, of course, with all other adults that care for our children and teach our children. So when we see adults, leaders in our country and our world behaving in unsupportive, unloving, aggressive, and negative ways, doesn't that affect all our sense of hope? And then subsequently carry over to the hope of our children. Our program, our team members, and some of you may kindle and support this hope and resilience, especially by helping to promote or facilitate the ongoing loving and stable connection of children to the people that most support them, typically family or the adults in their lives that may be most consistent in their lives. Typically, it's been mom, dad, grandparents, as we see more grandparents adopting their grandchildren, and all of us, the extended village of family and schools and communities, teachers, neighbors, and you. We want to think of our children as tough and resilient, but research shows that resilience is so closely tied to the resilience and well-being of their adults. There are definitely children who are especially vulnerable because they may be separated from their primary givers, perhaps living in foster care, having parents who are incarcerated, or separated in other ways, or living in families where parents are so stressed and overwhelmed that they are so busy attending to their own well-being or the well-being of the whole family that their own self-care is neglected, or the one-on-one experience of love, safety, and support with their children is diminished. Obviously, I don't want us to all leave this discussion feeling hopeless and bleak about our society. But I am so fortunate, our team is so fortunate to be in a position to support children and families, and so humbled by the resilience that so many of our families showed despite these experiences. So these are actual glimmers of hope that we are seeing in our community on a daily basis as we do school visits, home visits, and other community visits. So these are just some examples. And some of these have happened within the last week, the last few days. A 5-year-old girl who jumps for joy when grandma comes to visit as we're doing a home visit. A 2-year-old boy who gets so excited to go to preschool and play with his friends. Watching a 10-year-old boy in a family who had just had a run-in with ICE just a few days ago, playing soccer outside in their neighborhood with his buddies, setting aside the trauma for the time being and just being a kid once again. An 11-year-old excited that mom just brought her newborn baby brother home perhaps a bit jealous, but so proud to be a big sister. A 2-year-old excited to bring his toy T-Rex to daycare and show his teacher. A 12-year-old showing off his favorite fishing pole gifted to him by his uncle who takes him fishing almost every month. So again, despite all those negative experiences I shared at the beginning, these things are happening with kids and they can bring our society and us such joy, right? So what is the common denominator that we see in these resilient children who have often experienced significant traumatic experiences? Each child has a significant adult in their life that is present, provides nurturance, love, safety, and some level of consistency. Not perfection in parenting or caregiving, but presence and a sense of love and peace. Our mental health work is not focused on prematurely diagnosing, but instead working with the whole context of a child. And it's not just about healing children, it's also about helping parents and caregivers to heal so that they can be present to support their family's healing and progress. Providing a glimmer of hope through families, parents, guardians, and the children's adults is what we do. We provide mental health prevention, consultation, intervention, parent-child interaction therapy, parenting, and we so appreciate all our community partners who also provided support or related support to children and families. So some suggestions for our own mental health. Kids can be wonderful role models for our mental well-being. And again, I'm thoroughly enjoying being a grandfather and spending time with my grandson. So when is the last time that you stared closely at a butterfly wing, right? We don't do that. Or deeply sniffed a flower, or rubbed your hands against a tree bark or some rough texture, peeked inside someone's ear, marveled at the cloud figures in the sky, danced wildly to any beat of music, galloped like a horse or stomped like a dinosaur, gently touched a grandfather's rough hands, dipped your feet in the cool water of a river or a lake, helped someone to smile or laugh with a tickle or a silly face, or simply sat still and listened to raindrops, a waterfall, or birds chirping in the wind. As a relatively new grandfather, I've taken great joy in revisiting and sharing many of these experiences with my grandson, and I feel so fortunate. I encourage you to connect to a child and partake of these activities, or share them with a child who may not have yet experienced the pure joy of some of these activities. That is the best mental health that we can provide. Better yet, support in whatever way you can parents and families to partake of these activities with their children. The more we do this, the more likely that glimmer of hope turns into a burst of joy and peace. Our children depend on us, their adults, to sustain that glimmer of hope. So thank you. So I'll open it up to reflection and any discussion or questions.
Boy, Fred, you've got that down. We even at the last Action Lab, there were plans starting to form around having an action lab around young people. So we really already are. You're doing the work, but opening up this field in this area of concern, and you're not alone. Um, I'd be real curious to know within family services, so that to understand family services a little bit better. So how do you go about engaging with a family through family services? How does that come about?
We actually are the majority of I would say all of our services are actually in great demand. In fact, our program is overwhelmed and we sometimes have a waiting list. So it seems odd, but we sometimes avoid some of the health fairs because we don't want to go out in the community and say, come get our services, benefit from what we're doing. And then we can't respond as quickly as we would want to. A couple of years ago, we had an additional set of funding that we were able to respond to any request. But at this time, we're a little more limited, and it's been scary with regard to funding. But the other
Mhm.
thing that Family Services is doing, and I think we're doing it pretty well and still working on it, is to integrate the services so that even within, we have 400 employees, even within our own program, we don't want to work in silos. Although we do, provide food and clothing and counseling and case management, we want to interconnect all those services so that a family can access any of that. And again, some of the isolation is sometimes driven by the funding requirements or the reporting requests and so forth. So that's one thing that we're doing is integrating our services so that we can respond. While I may not be able to provide the counseling today or next week, I can connect you to some of our other resources and, of course, other resources in our community. But there's a lot of demand. We're not beating on doors trying to get more clients. There's a huge need. Mental health, social services, all that we do. There's just a big demand, especially now with more limited funding. Yeah.
And are there volunteer opportunities with family services to help lighten the load, but also at the same time strengthen, right, the foundation of it in direct ways?
Yes, absolutely. We have many volunteer opportunities. Our community development department oversees that, and we get an influx of volunteers pretty regularly. And actually, a lot of our programs, including ours, also depend on interns that come in unpaid from the local universities and other volunteers. And in fact, 60% of our program, we have 20 people, are former interns. They came from a school to finish their degrees in social work or counseling, and they've stayed on. They were hired because of the experience they gained with us and the training we provided, and they love the work and had the passion for it, so they've stayed with us. So yes, absolutely. You can call our community development department or access us on www.family-service.org to look for those volunteer opportunities.
And one that comes to mind isn't even directly with family services, but if you know of a young person, and I realized while you were talking this morning, a young person came to mind that I know, right? But to if you're not already friends with them or supporting them, and you can tell that they don't have that significant adult in their life, we can all do more than volunteer. We can become that significant adult or help to form a relationship that can do that, because we know that that's the one factor
Right.
that it's foundational to all of us. And
Right.
I've got a whole list of adults, that I grew up with in different
Mhm.
places and in different ways. Um, and I know that's true. And I think of them daily and where I get my gifts and my own strength and thoughts. So that's a volunteer action all of us can do without ever having to call volunteer services or you. And it helps your work.
And there are
Yeah.
formal opportunities through other partner agencies such as CASA and Big Brothers Big Sisters, programs like that continuously, recruit mentors, volunteers to be mentors for youth, for kids.
hmm And
Absolutely.
that's what I think too, like these gatherings that we do put together. In one sense,
Oh, you went on mute, Anne. I think with your earbud.
it,
There you go.
probably, but
Mhm.
the gatherings that we have that are coming up, they're also great things in terms of partnering, like what you're talking about. So our own networking within community, um, as much, if not more, in terms of getting more people to come and utilize our services. How can we partner? How can we be community together in this effort where we know that there are others out there like Big Brothers and Big Sisters and Casa, and that we can point people to for their most specific needs. I'm curious. Billy is here, so I'm gonna lob a little bit. But Billy, can you tell us in Sacred what is there specifically in terms of younger people? And it seems to me that there's been conversation about a portal specific to the needs of young people. Billy, can you talk to that at all? I
I can
don't think
speak to
Bill's here.
Bill is actually here, and I'll hand it
Oh,
over to him in a
good,
minute.
good.
We don't directly have a category for youth. The content for youth is distributed based upon the need that they have, whether it be mental health or whatever it will be. So, for example, the mental health care portal and the IDD portal, there are specific filters to deal with the youth related. So, if you have a youth that's got anxiety issues and they need it in Spanish, we can help you locate that. So, there's a very rich collection of information for youth, but it's not sorted into one portal, which is where I think the discussion comes from. Maybe there should be a specific portal for youth focused resources. I don't know, Bill, do you want to jump in on that? I'm not sure if he's active here. He's probably on another call, but that's we don't focus on him that way, but we probably should look at that. Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here. So we have not done the, as Billy just said, we have not done the youth specific uh, s- uh, property, on Sacred. The reason we haven't done that is simply because everything else that we've done, mental health, housing support, IDD supports, all of those have a youth component. So you can find the IDD portal is mostly youth. It's not all youth, but most of the individuals and the families that are targeted with the IDD portal are parents and caregivers of youth. Those youth, of course, grow into adults who need continuing services. But so while we haven't done that, we're open to that. I know that there's a very vibrant community, kind of an ecosystem around youth in San Antonio. Up Partnership and Family Services and Good Sam Center, and there's a lot going on there in these youth providers. And so we have so I know all of those organizations are using our service. I know Family Service uses Sacred extensively, and Mary Gar and I are in communication frequently. So the we would be interested in exploring that, but we are looking at kind of leaning into kind of doing action labs and kind of doing part of our outreach to make sure that the community understands that those youth services are available. Also, things like childcare, summer activities, things like that are all throughout Sacred. And so while there's not a specific portal for those, there are categories for all of that where you can find that information.
Great. I'm curious, Fred, do you know in family services how much or if Sacred is being utilized? Do you utilize it? Not to put you on the
Absolutely.
spot.
Everybody's very familiar with it. And actually, one of the board members of Sacred was one of our clinicians for a while, for a couple of years. So she promoted that. Everybody has the little cards. And so we use it extensively. Absolutely.
Sweet. I'm going to open it up if there are other questions. And just so everybody remembers, I'm on my phone, so my access to chat is a little different than normal. So,
Not
other
seeing any
thoughts or
hands raised,
questions?
not seeing any hands raised, and not seeing anything in chat right now either.
Okay. You must have done a great job, Fred. And this is why you teach what you're one of those folks who like, what's the phrase? If you can't whatever, but then you teach, right? But you're somebody who's doing it and teaching it, and so thank you for that service in our city.
And Peter,
Thoroughly enjoying it and appreciating it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Billy,
sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Peter has his hand up.
go Peter.
Thank you, Ann, and thank you, Fred, for all the service. And of course, I really appreciate Family Services, Mary Gard, the neighborhood place. When I first realized what a gym that was, and Ann talks about proximity, right? And my question is around the neighborhood place, because I mean that's really a model. I mean, it's a great model that the work we're doing in the southwest side of San Antonio, we kind of modeled it after that.
Right.
And what was very ironic is that at the Athens Elementary School that closed, the care center there, of course, had the family services programming, and then it moved over to Dwight. So I wanted to get an update on that because, of course, working within the community there with the youth specifically. And if you have like a heat map to say this is the impact of the participants, like you said, you really maxed out with trying to serve community related to the proximity to the neighborhood place and to those centers, like to say within that range, these are the numbers of people that we're touching as opposed to the whole city, just to show the value of being in proximity with the services. And then, but you guys are across the city, of course, providing service. So appreciate the work. Just want to kind of get your feedback on that. What's the status of the care zone support there? What's there? And what does the future look like here in the short term? Because we're partnering there and trying to maximize those efforts in partnership with Family Services.
So yes, we had a partnership with that district. We still have a partnership with that district, and we're involved in the care zone, providing mental health services through our behavioral health department, ourselves visiting some of the schools in that area. And it's exciting to see that development on the south side, similar to the neighborhood place. And we wish that we would have that in every quadrant or every neighborhood because it works so well. And I mean, it took a while to evolve. but I'm glad and I'm happy to see that it's growing in other areas. I specifically am not aware of the details of the progress in integrating what we do with those new efforts. But Mary Garr is out in the community, and she's the one that keeps up with that, and a great leader, and we appreciate her leadership. But yeah, I'm specifically not aware of the details of the progress of that project.
Well, thank you, Fred. Appreciate the work. Great work.
Thank you.
Other thoughts, questions, comments for Fred?
Nothing in chat, no hands raised.
All right. Well, it's been a great morning. I want to remind all of you, if you haven't been kind of reading ahead, I'm not going to say this ends our series, but because we're going to be talking about this forever, right? Or for a long time yet. But next Thursday at the intersection is a great opportunity to learn about the Weave grants. And these come out of the Aspen Institute, and they're about weaving together community. It's exactly what we've been talking about. Those are being handled through the Alamo Colleges District. And so Vice Chancellor Eric Castillo is going to come and talk about those grants, and that the application process, I believe, opens on Monday. So it'll be like fresh, right? Those grants are 2,500 and 5,000, but they're for individuals can apply for projects and plans that they're making, as well as it's generally smaller nonprofits. But the thing to do is to come next Thursday and find out those details and those applications. They're all San Antonio specific. So if you know somebody too that is working on a project from, and this isn't just like mental health, it's, you know, any community concern or something that someone's working on, to make sure and come next Thursday. Learn about the Weave grant application. And it's a fairly quick turnaround as well. And we all know, because we've seen it, we could ask Peter to go on about it, but micro grants that people in the community and smaller organizations, congregations have gotten, like through the Office of Sustainability in terms of environment, and what they were able to do with a smaller amount of money than, 2,500 and 5,000 might not sound like much, but you can do a lot with that. And so I really encourage everyone to come next week for that potential in our community. And then later we'll actually find out where that goes, and we'll be able to support those efforts and learn from other community members. So I want to invite everyone to make sure and come, tell others that you know, and especially those that you know have some really extraordinary projects going on. I just thought of one in my head, and I want to make sure and contact them, because they're doing some really important work that's about weaving community together. So next week at the intersection, Weave. And then we're going to go into hearing from different organizations and people in terms of civic engagement and action groups. So I haven't like filled that all out yet, so I'm working on it, but we'll go into another series throughout the summer. So thank you all for being with us this morning. Thank you so much, Fred. Tell Mary, thanks.
If I could add just one final comment.
Yes, sir. Go.
I don't want to discourage anybody from seeking our services. Some of our programs are wide open as far as taking referrals. So please don't hesitate. And even our program, when we get crises and something urgent that needs to be addressed quickly, we will respond. So don't hesitate to refer to us and seek our services. All right.
That's the thing about community. We rally. We do. Yes. It's one of the things we're very good at in San Antonio. So thanks, Fred. Tell Mary, welcome back whenever she's back. And we'll see you all next week at the intersection. Thanks all.